Got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty, I have a sense of urgency. A message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with, now they looking nervously. And I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better, see. I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me. I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. She's alive? She's dead. I think she's dead.
Sensational.
Motherfucker.
Let's play a game.
Okay, we're going live. It's Sunday afternoon. It's 5:05 in the Great British Isles, nearly, on the 9th of June. And I've just been for a run and I've got back. I've had some juice and I thought, balls to it. I'll go live. Why not? I'll have a bit of fun. And see what I can say. This thumbnail was something that I picked up from Telegram. This thumbnail comes from a small 6-second video. And it's quite opposite because while I was on my run, I was listening to something called Dialogue Works. And it was an interview between Nima R. Al-Khorshid and Larry Johnson. And I am going to show about 8 minutes of this because it's fascinating. So what they're talking about in this particular element of the clip, if I can be a bit more professional about it. Let me add to the stage. If I can be a bit more professional about this, they're talking about the West and Russia and how the reality has come out rather than the propaganda that we are being fed all the time about whose fault this is and what's actually going on. There are some really key elements within here. So I hope you'll enjoy this. I will interject occasionally, but not too much, because Larry Johnson, who's a former CIA intel analyst, as it says on the screen, basically tells you everything you really want to know.
The State Duma member, Leonid Slutsky, he said that our patience is certainly great, but it's not unlimited. He's talking about the Russian can use the territory of friendly countries to respond appropriately to missile and bomb attacks on Russian territory. How do you interpret this frustration of Russia?
There's a saying I learned in Spanish.
Well, before he gets into it, this is the background of this, as Nima said, is that Vladimir Putin basically turned around and said, you're basically going a bit too far. He said this at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, and he said it to NATO, he said it to the West, he said it to the US, he said it to France, to the UK. He said, you're going too far. And we have the ability to respond. And Dmitry Medvedev basically turned around and said, you give weapons and missiles to Ukraine so that Ukraine can fire them into Russia, into Russian territory, then we will give our enemies, your enemies, we will give your enemies, because if they're your enemies, they're our friends. We will give your enemies our missiles and weapons and let them use it on you. That's where this is coming from. So that's the bit of context. Larry Johnson's going to give a bit more context to it and indicate the implications.
That the English translation is, people confuse being good with being a fool. And what that means with respect to Russia is the West has interpreted Russia's patience, Russia's tolerance up to this point with outrageous actions on the part of the West as a sign of weakness on the part of Russia. And that's a potentially fatal mistake.
And what's interesting about that weakness is that Russia has been weak. And the West never understood when it was no longer weak. And that's the narcissistic attitude that an egotist and a power-hungry maniac who just wants to keep people down and to persuade everybody else will act. They will keep on saying they're weak, and they'll keep on pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And it's fascinating. I perceive Russia has been weak probably since the 1980s as part of the Soviet Union, as the lead country within the Soviet Union. Then into the end of the 1980s, when the Soviet Union fell apart. Then the 1990s with Boris Yeltsin there, very, very weak. The place was all over the place. Since about 2000, 2001, when Putin first came in as president, Putin understood Russia's weakness and has bowed down to the West since the beginning, when he started, for 20 years. And it wasn't until 2022 where I think he felt strong enough that it was a case of no more.
And in fact, you've had both President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov and the Deputy Foreign Minister Ryabkov say the same thing this week. And it is not just a coincidence that they've made those statements this week. It's a coordinated message that they're sending out to the rest of the world that they're not going to take it anymore. That the United States and the West are now on notice that any further attacks inside Russia are going to be met with a response. Some of the options Russia has, and I don't know if they're going to pursue these, but just let me lay out a couple of options that they have. They could supply more advanced missiles and rockets to insurgent groups that are fighting ISIS and U.S.-backed forces in Syria, and could strike U.S. military bases or the bases of those entities in the Kurdish region that the United States is supporting. They could also help the Houthis, not only with improved weaponry that could actually take out a U.S. ship, but also provide intelligence that could be used.
I think there's wider stuff here. And Larry Johnson, understandably, has been focusing on the United States. You're talking what Israel is doing and the United States having its warships in the Mediterranean. So you've got Israel having started talking about Lebanon, having attacked Iraq, having attacked Iran. You do have Syria, as he's talked about here. You've got Afghanistan and the Taliban. Wider afield, I don't know how much China would require any help in relation to whatever it is possibly wanting to do about Taiwan. I've no idea that whether China would require any help or any of that, or what Russia could possibly offer them. Then, as he said, you've got the Houthis in Yemen. If you go further down, you've got pretty much the whole of Africa, but you don't really need to just focus on the United States. You've got all the French colonies that are rising up against France at the moment, Mali and others. They will help them, will Russia. And it is all a case of you're helping your friends against us. We will help our friends against you. And Russia is strong enough to do it.
And the same thing for the Houthis that the United States is doing for Ukraine. Now, Russia recognizes that it's moving steadfastly forward in its campaign to demilitarize Ukraine, denazify Ukraine. And they recognize in the process they're weakening NATO. Yet, what is
the denazification of Ukraine is still a key issue, and it is still denied by the West, completely denied all the time. I was looking at an Al Jazeera post from March 2022, so just 1 month after, within the first month of Russia's special military operation over in Ukraine. And they were talking about where it all came from. And people like Igor Kolomovsky, who was the original founder and funder of Azov, as well as being the funder of Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, that provides a very clear link to Volodymyr Zelensky as to why he was able to completely lie to everybody about how he was going to bring everything together and stop all the war within Ukraine. By that I meant their own internal civil war with the Donbass regions, where they were, courtesy of Petro Poroshenko, treating them as if they were terrorists and bombing all the civilians there. And then Zelensky basically turned around and did not do what he said he was going to do. He started demonizing the ethnic Russians, just like Petro Poroshenko had. This piece by Al Jazeera, alongside the same sort of pieces that you can find from 2014, from the BBC, from CNN, from all around the world, from Reuters, talking about the Nazification of the Azov battalion, the Aidar battalion, the Kraken battalion, the Donbass battalion, all of them. And the fact that they are actually part of the military of the government of Ukraine. They are officially part of the country's military. Now, you could lay claim that, only less than 2% of people voted for particular far-right political parties. Well, yes, that's very true, because none of them need to highlight that they are far right at all, because that is actually foundational. It's foundational within society of Ukraine. It's already there. Arguing any of those points is like arguing for water to be wet.
What does NATO do in response? They've issued statements this week about they're preparing for their ground troops to fight Russia on the ground. They're crazy. This is madness, absolute insanity being talked about by people that you think would have more sense, but they obviously don't. I'll put it very clearly. The United States and NATO, if they decide to enter a ground war with Russia, will lose badly, and it may end up with the complete destruction of Europe.
And this is another key point. The United States never does badly out of this sort of stuff, and the United States hasn't done badly out of it over the past 2 years. The United States has done very well, thank you very much. Europe's been absolutely screwed by it. Germany, France, Spain, Italy, all the Baltic countries, and the United Kingdom. Absolutely hammered by putting all the sanctions on and doing all of these rather weak ideological demands, and throwing money and weapons, whatever weapons they've got, at Ukraine to fight the nasty Russians. And it's all that it's going to do is completely annihilate Europe. That's all it's going to do, because Russia is not going to trust Europe. Russia is not going to be friendly at all to Europe. It is getting all the benefits it can get by going east and south, not going west. Hey ho.
Europeans need to sit down and count the cost. Is it worth it? Because Russia's not seeking to conquer Europe. Russia's seeking to have its national territory respected and to not have to face every year, as has been the case for the last 16 years, of NATO and the United States conducting military exercises on the borders of Russia that are, when you're sitting there as a Russian looking at it, you see these as hostile, as intended to come after you.
Another very good point. If you look at the Baltic Sea, the past 16 years, NATO has been undertaking military exercises there, right in the face of St. Petersburg, right in the face of Kaliningrad. Then there are wider land-based NATO exercises that continue throughout the Baltic countries all the time, and have done. Oh, we're just a defensive organization. No, NATO has never been defensive. NATO has always been offensive, and always attempting to screw over Russia, because that was the basis of NATO's being. And the West, and particularly European countries, have all been very, very clear. They want Putin kicked out. They must have regime change in Russia, and Russia must be split up into 30 different little countries, all the size of the Baltics, so that none of them have got any power, so that the West can dominate them. That ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen ever. Russia is going to stand on its own 2 feet, stick its fingers up at the West and going, you can either accept us or you can just deal with us. And you're going to have to deal with us, and we're going to have the power, says Russia.
And given Russians' history, where they've been invaded from the West 4 times over the last 200 and 12 years or 210 years or 212 years.
So what are those 4 times? I mean, I think I can get 3 of them. I think there was France with Napoleon. I think there's the Poland, Lithuania stuff where they went on to Moscow, and the Germans. I'm trying to think what the 4th one was. I can't remember it. I haven't looked it up, but yeah, Moscow has been under attack quite a few times. As has quite a bit of Europe, but I mean the UK hasn't in the past 200 odd years, and now there's America. Really,
they're not sitting back ignoring that; they're taking it seriously. So these are continued provocations by the West. There's no justification for it. The West keeps coming up with justification. They keep trying to portray Russia as this country trying to recreate its, quote, empire. And we've talked about this before in our previous discussions. Name me all of the colonies that Russia established in Africa. None. It was Germany, France, Italy, United Kingdom, Netherlands. They were the ones establishing colonies and exploiting the people in Africa.
And guess what? If any of those African states, those African countries have got a major problem with any of those countries, if they harbor any ill will and they want some weaponry in order to get some revenge in any way, Russia's going to gladly provide them with those weapons.
Same thing in Asia. You know, Vietnam was under the French control, and one of the reasons the United States initially got involved with Vietnam was more to try to help preserve French influence, not to free the people from communism. I mean, that was the lie, the big lie. So the U.S. is trying to use the same playbook, both with respect to China and to Russia, portraying them as these authoritarian societies hell-bent on conquering the world. And it's a lie. It's the West that has been involved with unrelenting wars over the last 70 years around the world, killing now over millions of people from countries such as Africa, Afghanistan, in Africa and Somalia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya.
Larry Johnson is highlighting very, very clearly the projection that is put forward by our Western countries, which is really concerning, and the narcissism, the gaslighting that goes with it, that get the flying monkeys out and send out all the propaganda so that everybody starts hating the people that we hate. All these other countries, we say they're doing bad. You must believe us that they're doing bad. They're all going to start disbelieving if they don't already disbelieve. Brojo makes a very good point here. Turkey has been talking to Vladimir Putin and some of the others in BRICS about Turkey joining BRICS. Turkey is a NATO member. That's going to be a fascinating connection. I mean, BRICS is an informal grouping of countries. It's nothing formal. There's no particular elements to it. But it does include China, and it does include Russia, and it includes Iran. And these countries are so-called enemies to the United States. The United States treats them like enemies, even if they don't say that they are enemies. It's going to get very, very interesting. As Brojo says, 40 other nations are waiting approval. I mean, loads of everybody's trying to join the BRICS. The BRICS is just going to become the new G200 or something at some point. It will get into the United Nations. It could end up changing the United Nations massively. The only reason that there are the particular countries on the permanent seats of the Security Council of the United Nations is because they were the big players when the United Nations started and linking together. They were all the allies from World War II. Now things have changed. Things are changing. You've just had D-Day, where Russia wasn't even mentioned. Russia wasn't invited to participate. There was nobody from Russia representing Russia in relation to World War II, which is absolute madness. Russia was the one that did all of the heavy lifting during World War II. Every single aspect of it. 27 million people died from Russia, from the Soviet Union, in beating Nazism. They broke the back of the Germans that allowed D-Day to happen and allowed the US and the UK to come in. I did see there was some stuff on the internet recently about there's stuff on Telegram. Some people had done some surveys. Back just after the Second World War, everybody was asked, who was it that did the most to beat the Germans? And it's something like 55% agreed. It was Russia. You look at it now, it's something like 10% of people in the West understand that it was Russia. And they all say it's the US or it was the UK. Even some people say it was fucking New Zealand or something. What is going on? Hello, Sandy. Hello, Green Soul. Sandy, I don't know whether you can hear this. It's like,
Sandy, my darling.
That's just for you. That was just for you. I don't know whether these things come through on this. But we'll have a bit more fun with that on Brojo's. Let's get back to listen to what Larry Johnson's saying.
You know, it's got to stop. It really has to stop. And that's what you're seeing coming out of the Russians. They're saying it's got to stop. They're not going to sit back and be a punching bag. And with this feeble-minded president that heads up the United States, it's quite clear for the world to see that the United States is being led by an incompetent.
I think we all know that. But I mean, the interesting one was Russia is not going to any longer be a punching bag. That is not the message that you're going to get from any of the mainstream media or from any of the governments at all. Not one of them are going to say that. They're all just going to say, that Russia is the aggressor. And of course, that is a perspective and opinion you can have. But if you look at things objectively, Russia is the one that has been aggressed against constantly for years.
And that was, today they had the plenary session of the International Economic Forum. Vladimir Putin was on stage along with the president of Bolivia, I believe, and the president of Zimbabwe, the leader of Zimbabwe. That was sending a message. One, Russia wasn't favoring the most wealthy countries, the most influential countries. They weren't pandering to China or to India. They were bringing two sort of small countries from the global south, putting them on stage with President Putin, treating them as equals. That sends a message. Then the fact that Putin can sit there and talk and answer questions extemporaneously over a 3-hour plus period. Can you imagine Joe Biden? Joe Biden can't even handle a 10-minute speech written out for him.
I think that bit about Joe Biden is irrelevant. The really important bit here is Russia treats every other country as an equal. Can you imagine America doing that? Can you imagine the UK doing that? We look down on all these small, irrelevant countries from the global south. They don't have much. They can't give us much. We don't need to treat them well. We can condescend to them arrogantly, and they'll just have to deal with what we give them. You know, it's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Anyway, I think that is as far as I really want to go with that. The link to the original is in the description below. It's a fascinating discussion between Larry Johnson and Nima Al-Khorshid. There was one other thing that that I wanted to show you. And oh yes, I will have to add it professionally again as a video file. Now, this is a mock-up. This isn't real. This is a mock-up. It's only it's about a minute long, something like that. But I can see this actually being real within the next couple of years. I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether it came from a video game, or I don't know whether somebody has mocked it up themselves. But if this becomes real, there is no such thing as armies anymore. It's like the last thing you want to be is on a front line anywhere if this becomes real. Now, I'm telling you, it's not real at the moment. This is either a mock-up or it's straight from a game, a video game. But I can see this happening given the speed of technology and what they're doing. Now, can you imagine, right? Can you imagine? They are pushing us towards war. War is not how it's shown in all of the old World War II movies that you've ever watched about heroism and, yeah, one shot and boom, somebody falls over and it doesn't actually hurt them. They just die. Or they get shot and they just carry on running because it doesn't hurt them because they're Superman or whatever. And they're just dealing with it stoically. It's like, I can handle it. No, war is shit. If you're Ukrainian, chances are you get dragged into a van over in Kiev nowadays, kicking and screaming. You get beaten up, being put into the van, knocked unconscious, thrown in. You wake up someplace where you're in chains, being taken to the front without any training whatsoever. And you've got a lifespan on average of around about 3.5 hours on the front line. So that's sort of where we're at. And most most of these people that die on the front lines in Ukraine, they never see a Russian soldier. They just don't see one. Everything is by artillery. Everything is to do with AI. Everything is to do with drones. Everything is to do with, somebody looking at a TV screen or a mobile phone screen, and they go, that's where some people are. Let's go get them. Press a button, bang, dead. It's nothing to do with looking your enemy in the eye anymore. None of it at all, whatsoever. You do not want to go to war at all. Nobody does. War is just annihilation. Right, I'm pretty much done. I think there could be plenty of other stuff that I could show. But I don't think it's worth me doing any more than that. I've been going long enough. 38 minutes. That's long enough, isn't it? You don't really want to listen to me droning on. Sandy wants to go and watch a comedy. I've just made her day. I'm going to make her day again.
Sandy, my darling.
There you go, my darling. Yeah, you can go back to Richard Madson's and enjoy it. And I will say goodbye.
Got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave. 6 feet deep under, but my body won't decay. Cause my messages are timeless, so they'll put them on display. Oh yeah, I rap with a certainty. I have a sense of urgency, a message for eternity, for everyone internally. I had some people burning me, but now they fucking learn to see I ain't the one to fuck with. Now they looking nervously, and I don't really care what you think of me respectfully. You can kick rocks if you think you're fucking better. See, I will outwork you, turn you to an enemy. Hurt you so bad that you're gonna need some therapy. I got the motherfucking recipe. I've been cooking up hits, I'ma leave a legacy. You'll be looking small when you're standing right next to me. I'm 5'10", bitch, but I'm 10 feet next to me.
I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yeah, I'ma do it my way. Yeah, I'ma do it my way.
I shot my wife in the stomach with 38.
Why did you do this?
She enticed me and she ridiculed me throughout my lifetime. I'll see if she's alive. She's alive? Yeah. I think she's dead.
Sensational.